Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a Wednesday edition. Teddy T's favorite day of the week. Wow, man, Teddy T, what day is that?
Today's day is hump day. It's a day for humping, to get over the hump. We must get over the hump today.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, my brother DJ Newkirk, man, punked out on me last night, man.
I saw the
know,
live.
He punked out on me, man.
I saw the live. I was like, oh, look, there goes the challenges coming up.
Bruh, I barely made it in today, bruh. Goodness gracious. And that was just, that was just going with Sleepy Joe. You know, Sleepy Joe. Here's the deal. Boy, I was stumbling, bruh. They carried me to the bed last night, bro. Mr. Here's the deal. You know, I think I had about 13 shots of Patron last night, bro. It was oh man. But on the other hand, Trump never said quickly. He was queued up. He was getting ready to, go into his speech because he has his greatest hits.
Right.
And he was getting ready to go into the quickly, but he got caught up. He got cut off. And, if y'all saw what happened, I got to give it to my sister, Angela Rye. Angela Rye said it best. This was love and hip hop. This was love and hip hop without the fight.
Right.
That's all that was needed to just take it over the top.
Yeah.
Just give it that swing on. And we've been saying that, man. That, Biden was going to have the opportunity to straight up swing on dude. That's what he should have did.
He blatantly said it. He took it to him in a black way. He said, man, shut. He wanted to say the F so bad. Shut the up.
I said, come on, shut up, man.
Shut up.
Shut up, man. Shut up, man. This is, thank y'all for joining us. This is Ask Mathis here on Strong Arm Radio, and I'm your host, Reginald Mathis, and rock with me as always is my brother, Wildman Teddy T, a.k.a. Baron the Mound Builder.
Oh, yeah.
And then we got my brother DJ Newkirk on the ones and twos, man, making sure we are technically right, Mr. IT, Mr. Technocrat, Mr. Technical, Mr. IT, all that. So, appreciate y'all rocking with us, man, and listening to us. We're going to get right into this debate and some of these polls, bro. As we've been talking about for the last few weeks, man, before we get into the nuts and bolts, as, our folks still joining, before we get into the nuts and bolts of this debate, bro, the Telemundo poll last night, 62-28, Trump. Come on, man. What are my Latino brothers and sisters looking at, bro? I think they was looking at, what they like. Well, I know what the Mexicans like, but Telemundo is I think it's more Cuban-based,
Right.
versus just Puerto Rican or whatever. But I'm thinking, the mass wrestlers, like they like the violence, and I think they like, somebody standing up.
Right.
Just, man, what was he doing? Like, he wasn't. Tell me one position that the president made you optimistic about the future. Please,
There was none.
One thing.
He didn't.
Newkirk,
He avoided all issues about any matters, and all he was really like what he went into depth about. What I thought was just too much was Hunter.
Hunter Biden
But that's what I'm saying. What does Hunter Biden have to do
with the country.
with the country? That's what I'm saying. Give me one thing that is going to affect you or me or your people that was discussed last night by the President of the United States of America. The debate was watched in 200 countries, bro. 200 countries. They're sitting there watching this train wreck, bro. Watching a train wreck. So we have devolved into literally a reality show. Literally.
Yeah, I mean, I was really like, you know, even the moderator, he just had to just come in to really moderate. Like, I don't think that he really thought he had to moderate.
He didn't really moderate.
You know what I mean? But he had to come in between them at certain times,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because he was like,
Right.
listen.
Listen. There are very few people who could have even done what Chris Wallace did.
He did a great job.
Only a few people, bruh, because Trump will roll them right over.
Right.
And he was ready.
It had to be a
Trump
sister.
was ready to take that whole thing over and talk the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no questions. Ain't no questions. Ain't no topics. I'm just talking. I'm freestyling. I'm giving them a game. What game had a 1,000 bars? What was that song he had that one time? I think the game, it was like 1,000 bars. Like, we just going and going and going and going.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, if you don't want to talk about your taxes, you don't want to confirm or deny whether or not you in fact paid personal income tax in the amount of $750. Not and 10 years of not paying any personal tax. You want to talk about the various taxes and the millions of dollars worth of taxes that your businesses have to pay, which is way different than what you are taxed on. So, you know, just listening to the questions and listening to the responses, bro, it was clear that the president was playing dodgeball. Mm-hmm. So his way of playing dodgeball is to just take over, commandeer the whole show and just get to talking and talking and talking, because when three people are talking at the same time, you don't know what anybody's saying. And that was his strategy. That was a strategy just to get through it. This man was not going to take on Joe Biden, who's been debating for 50 years.
47 years.
Well, 47 years is just in the Senate. But then another 8 years in the White House.
Yeah.
And then, law school, and, he was a former public defender.
Mm-hmm.
Trump, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like when Will Smith back in the day, when he was Fresh Prince,
right,
talking about, I can fight Mike Tyson. Remember that song, I can fight Mike Tyson? Knowing nobody taking that serious.
Right.
But if you have to fight Mike Tyson, when Mike Tyson was in his prime, back when that song came on, how would you fight Mike Tyson? You get in there and you run.
Right. You
run around the ring, maybe tire him out, and then come in and that's your plan. Come in and steal him. One of my homeboys, man, I won't say his name because he's very distinguished right now, right? But before he, became a distinguished juror, I just call it that way, a distinguished juror, we attended it wasn't an open mic, it was an open fight contest. Back in the day at Club Iguanas, down south, not the one in Miramar. They had one down south on Kendall Drive, way out west, right, near the hammocks.
Wow.
So, bruh decides he's going to go in there and do like, in Spider-Man. Remember in Spider-Man when it was like, take on this guy, stay in the ring with this guy for X amount of time or whatever. So, dude was like, yo, we're going to go to this Cafe Iguanas, where it was like Monday night, and if you're going to agree to get in the ring and fight, it's like open bar, like open tab, right? Open tab.
So you and your people, or just you?
It was just me and him that went together.
So he went in there. You got drinks and stuff too.
But the thing is, we both did. Like, we both did before the match. We both did before the match. So,
right.
So we at the bar. He comes in. He signs up. He just in there. He didn't bring no gear, like nothing. He just signed his name, and they gave us something, and we got to go to the bar. And so we just drinking. And now it's time to fight, right? It's time to box. Bruh, I'm looking at the dudes coming in, bruh, and they got bags. They it's like a bowler bringing their own bowling ball. If somebody come in with their own bowling ball, they bag and their own shoes.
They are prepared.
They prepared.
Yeah.
So, bruh, He goes in, man, literally after we've been drinking for an hour. He goes in, right? And the guy I remember the guy he went up against, bro, was like had an army, like crew cut, was like boxing shape, boxing trunks. Like, dude, I don't even think bro had on shorts, man. I think he just had on like jeans and like a t-shirt and his regular shoes. Just get in there. He wanted to blow some steam off. I guess, he was like, man, I just want to blow some steam. So he gets in the ring, bro, and I'm watching.
Now, this is boxing or wrestling?
Boxing. So he gets in the ring, right? So it starts off, my man doing great.
Yeah.
He doing great. But, those 3-minute rounds, they take a toll on you, especially if you have not trained. So probably like a minute in, bruh get tired. But until the bell rings,
you can't stop.
It's open. You know what I mean? So dude would like try to take breaks in the middle of the match, and then the dude would just come in and just start wailing on him. Right? He just come in there and just start wailing on him. And he get mad because dude will like catch him in the face or something like that. He'll get mad and then he'll just like beat dude up for a second and get tired again.
And fall back.
And fall back. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, I say that's analogous to last night. What Trump knew, he cannot out-debate this man. And you got to remember, he's never done this before. If you go back to 2016 election when he was in the primaries in 2015.
According to Kellyanne Conway, she said that Trump won this debate.
That's what I'm saying. Based on Telemundo, they was like 62-28. And they cited the Telemundo poll, the C-SPAN poll, and one other poll that I think they cited like a CNN poll that said like 1 out of 3 or something like that. But for all the real polls and out there, the real people that, it wasn't even close. And nobody can even say that with a straight face. Now, Kellyanne Conway, who I respect a lot, because she's the first female to come in and successfully run a campaign. She's a lawyer. She's a presidential campaign. So you got to give her props. Like, she's definitely on the Mount Rushmore. And dude would not be president if it wasn't for her. She came in after, getting rid of Paul Manafort. She came in after getting rid of Corey Lewandowski. She came in and saved Trump's campaign. And she was taking them bows and arrows on CNN and wherever. Every day. That's, I give her props. Kellyanne, much respect for Kellyanne. And look how tough it is, man. When you got a husband, she married to a dude that's straight up paying for like full-page ads against Trump. And then your daughter is threatening emancipation because your parents not getting along. And so Kellyanne was like, man, I gotta step away from this, man. I got to go save my marriage. Like, this dude just literally came in. And you saw, we was talking last night, Brad Parscale, this year's campaign manager, his wife thought he shot himself on Sunday in Fort Lauderdale. Like, Trump takes a toll on you, bro. You can only imagine the type of toll he takes on you, man. You probably get, we saw with the book. With Bob Woodruff, man, like, this guy come in, his brain is constantly going. He getting calls 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Man, what you doing? Yeah, man, I just want to get some stuff off my chest. It just, like, this man is going all the time and being an ego, a narcissist. He wants attention all the time. So imagine when you wake up and almost any real-time television station you watch is talking about you. All day. All day.
I get tired of that.
All day.
He likes it.
I'd always be on the phone with somebody. Yeah. And they talking about me again, that's all.
Bruh, all day. So, when you look at that and you look at the fact that when he was running in the primaries, after having never done this in his life, he don't know how to debate. And that's what he was like. I don't know how to debate. These guys, this is all they do is talk. I'm a man of action. You know, all this talking stuff is for the birds. So it was so many candidates. When he was running in 2015, he was winning by only getting 15 to 20%, but he always had that solid core base, that 15 to 20% that would just go with him no matter what. When all the other people, the senators like Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, so you got two Cuban men right there who splitting, you know, the conservative Republican Cuban vote right there. So you got Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz who's splitting that vote. Then you had Carly Fiorina with the females, you know, doing whatever she was trying to do over there. Then you had a governor, Chris Christie. Then you had another governor of Ohio, John Kasich. Then you had former governor Jeb Bush. So you had all these dudes, you know, fighting each other, and he was winning the, you know, the various contests with his 15 to 20%. So he was just racking up, and so it was so many people on the stage in the debates that he'd only have to say a couple things, and they're like, you know, Donald Trump answered the question, but he'd say whatever he wanted to say, but it wasn't enough time, and you just say to yourself, what did he just talk about? They just asked this man about what's your plan for X, Y, and Z. He's like, I'm not going to tell. I want the element of surprise. And people like, right, when they was talking about his defense plan and what he was going to do for the military and all that. He was
I remember that.
Right, he was like, no, I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to tell you that. You know what I mean? You know, they'll know when they need to know, when they dying. That's when they're going to know. When them bombs come, when them missiles come. You know, these guys always telegraphing what you're going to do. Just know what I'm going to do is the best. It's going to be the best. I'm going to get the best generals. I'm going to get the best leaders, and I'm going to do this with their whatever. And he got away with it. He got away without asking any question, without answering any question. The man got away with it.
I mean, they totally asked him about white supremacy, and they asked him, will he do it? And he didn't do it.
Not only did he not do it, but he's talking about the Proud Boys.
Yeah, he just went right to them.
And basically hit the Proud Boys, which is, you know, the latest rendition of, you know, the Breitbarts and the, you know, far-right extremist groups. You know, because neo-Nazi KKK is not in vogue. See, now these are, you know, the new type of people.
Yeah, we're proud.
These are new type of people who are like, you know, flag, faith, family, country, you know, what have you. So these Proud Boys out there, you know, who've been going out there, the militias and other things like that, you know, their whole thing is stand back, stand by. That was their calling card. So when they asked him, he was like, who, what, who, sure, yeah, who you want me to talk about? So Biden said, how about denouncing the Proud Boys? He was like, Proud Boys? All right, no problems. Stand by and stand back. What?
Hey,
you know what I mean?
But listen, that was cool though,
bruh.
Because
most people don't know that.
Don't know that.
People don't know that, bruh.
He was being
like,
slick.
People don't know that. Like you come out there and say like their thing. Like what's an example of something that a saying that somebody always say that you there to denounce them, and people are like, oh, you heard him denounce it, and then you say, bruh, do you not know what he just said? You know, or they say, hey man, just you know, you've been out there perpetrating that you know, you down, you know, with the black folks or something like that, and your response end up being like, you know, it's one of them things you don't understand. And people be like, hey, you just answered the question, you don't understand. But remember that whole thing, it's a black thing, you don't understand. So people who don't understand just thought he just used regular words.
Just can't understand.
He thinking they use regular words, but not knowing, like, dude just shouted us out.
Right there.
And then right afterwards, they all posting like, yes, sir.
That's it.
We're going to stand back and stand by.
That's what he
Which
said.
is like, okay, we ready. Let's prepare. But if this thing go wrong, we on standby, waiting on the call. We going to show up, bruh. Like, who does that? Who does that, bruh?
Donald Trump. Donald Trump does. Donald J. Trump.
He does that.
I mean,
as my brother says, we got the first N-word.
That's right. The realest
We got
in
them.
there,
Bro,
man.
okay, we're going to have to give him, we're going to have to hit him with the Jeezy. We're going to have to hit him with the Jeezy.
Which one?
I'm the realest. You already know,
we'll got the clean
but
one.
we need the clean version. Y'all already know. Y'all welcome. You know, we hit y'all with the video mix, you know, so they tell us that we got to kind of, you know, calm it down and keep it, you know, just
PG.
just to the,
PG.
you got to keep it PG, maybe G,
It's 2 o'clock.
because PG, you know, they rock, you know, so that's what it is, man. So welcome our video mix family. Appreciate y'all. Y'all rocking with Ass Mathis on Strong Arm Radio. My brother Wildman Teddy T, DJ Newkirk.
Yes, sir.
That's what it is. And of course, man, we talking about that presidential debate. But can we got to give it another name, bro. That was not a debate.
It was no
That was
debate at all.
you know, all we needed, bro, was
that was a clout. That was
we
a
needed
clout.
Jam Pony to do the intro.
Mhm.
Like Jam Pony, you know, Slick Vic needed to do a nice intro for that one last night, man. Starting off with like a whoops upside the say whoops upside the head. Cause, you know, but hey, love him or hate him, Trump don't run. He don't run, bruh.
He's cool.
And I'm gonna tell you, you know, I certainly thought he lost the debate. Certainly not voting for him this time. But there was a level of respect that I'm going to admit, keeping it 1,000,
There you go.
that I was just like, yo, dude, he's not stupid. So that's the one thing that I was unsure of, you know, during this time. Like, they say, oh, this man don't read. All he does is watch TV and all this other stuff. Dude ain't stupid. Dude knows a lot about what's going on and what he has his fingers on and what he has his hands in. The problem is what we're finding out is he's corrupt. That he's corrupt and he's cheating and he's stealing our bread. And he's making us pay taxes that he's not even paying. And he's coming out here basically, you know, using these people that he hates. Using these people that he won't let come anywhere near him. Using these people that he don't want to shake their hands. He's a germaphobe, and he don't even want to shake their hands. So he's using these people who ready to take bullets for him that he don't even, you know, want to be around them. He don't even want to be around him. Dude is not stupid. And that's one of the things, keeping it 1,000 with you, out of all the debates I've seen Trump do, this was his best debate. This was his best debate. You know why it was his best debate, Teddy T?
Why?
Because he controlled it.
Yeah.
If you can control the debate, you're going to win.
Yeah, he kept the chaos. And that's what I said. You got to make it to where somebody is the bigger person. You know what I'm saying? And Biden fell right into Trump's plan to keep the chaos, to keep the hollering, to keep the screaming, to keep the anxiety. Like, they didn't have a peaceful, not even back and forth. It wasn't
the rules
tennis.
that they agreed to. Like, these are rules that y'all came up with. That each person, when they're in their 2 minutes, that's it. You gotta, whatever they saying.
That's it.
You gotta let them say it. And then you got your opportunity to respond. But he changed the rules, which lets you know, again, we have an undisciplined president of the United States. When things are going on, we have somebody that has no discipline. And when you're talking about somebody with no discipline with what's going on, you know, it's okay when you just, you know, when it doesn't matter. But as we see, we got hit with this pandemic, and needing somebody that has discipline is what we need. Why is it that with one, you know, what do we have? 1/5 of the world's population, but we have 1/4 of the deaths? Like some crazy, they can't, it got to be way better than that. But like for the population that we have in the U.S., to have I think it's over 2 million people who have died. Can you check the stats? Can you check the numbers on how many people have died worldwide from coronavirus. And how can we say that we're doing excellent when, we have more deaths over here than anywhere else? We don't, we got 300 million people in the United States. They got over 1 billion people in China. They got all these people all over the world. And the deaths that they're encountering, like folks will say, 30 people died over here, 50 people died over here. And we still got 750 to 1,000 people dying every day. Like, that's crazy. What those numbers say?
33.7 million cases and 1.01 million deaths.
All right, so it's 1 million total deaths. And we got over 200,000.
200,000.
So what is that? What was that?
200,006, give or take 910.
You know what I'm saying? What's the percentage? If it's 1 million people dead and we got roughly 200,000 of the million people, that's so 1 million, 10% of 1 million is 100,000. So we got 20%. We got 20% of the deaths, but that's not our population. Like, no other country, civilized country, is even close to those numbers. So how can we say that we're doing the best?
We're not. We're not doing the best.
Only a real ninja would say that, just to keep everybody saying, well, he said it. I mean, the one thing I love about Donald Trump, he keeps his poise. You can't, everything that was trying to blame on him, he was just deflecting.
No, lies.
He deflected everything.
No. What about Hunter? He got $3 million from the wife of the mayor of Moscow.
No experience.
What
but
about
I don't
that?
care.
What about
I really,
that?
like, me as an American and being a citizen, I really don't give a dang what Hunter Biden has done or what he's doing, because Hunter Biden is a runner for the country. Hunter Biden doesn't have control over when he gets in. If Joe Biden wins, he's not going to be up in there like Trump's
like
daughter.
Trump kids.
Like, you know what I mean? He's
like
not going to be up in there,
kids.
like
They didn't even want.
Ivanka.
They didn't even want to give them, security clearances because of the entanglements and the encumbrances.
They got a lot of entanglements out there
that they have. Didn't even want to give them security clearances, But that's what we're dealing with. So here's the deal. Certainly, to me, Joe Biden did not look comatose. He did not look senile. He's definitely a step slower. He's definitely a step slower, but his mind and his brain is still functioning. And I think that's what a lot of people just wanted to see. Like, and that wasn't easy, because Trump didn't even get at to Hillary. Like,
right.
Trump went crazy. Trump went Tasmanian devil yesterday, bro. He went nuts, man. Like, he went nuts. And so I was like, yo, Trump was in there for the knockout.
Mm-hmm.
Trump was in there for the knockout. He was just like, yo, Trump was probably like, yo, I know Sleepy Joe, I want him to do a drug test. Like, that's what he was leading up to this. I want him drug tested. I want him drug tested because I know he not all there. I want him drug tested. So if I put him on the clock, if I'm right up in his face, I don't give him time to think, he's just going to have a meltdown. I think that's what Trump, I think he definitely went in there with a strategy. He was like, man, I'm not in here to be, I ain't in here to be going back and forth with y'all. I'm living my best life, and I don't need one of y'all trying to take me up out of the White House and make me go to jail. Like Ozzie Davis said in his famous halftime speech in School Days to the football team, do y'all want me to lose my job? Y'all better get out there and fight. Y'all better get out there and play hard.
Right.
Because my job is on the line.
Right.
And with everything that's coming up, our president is definitely facing potential imprisonment, indictment.
Oh, yeah.
For all kind of things. Tax fraud, tax evasion. Everything.
Racketeering.
You know what I mean? So it is to his interest to stay in office and to stack the deck. He's stacking the courts.
Yeah, he's trying to get it right now.
Yeah, he just there setting it up, and we're all like watching and
allowing it to
complicit. And
happen.
we sitting there watching, and to my Latino friends and Latina friends, like, you know, y'all, man, y'all on the okie doke right now. Y'all are victims of the okie doke right now. Because y'all saying, okay, in the Cuban community where he won in 2016, he got 54% of the Cuban vote. You know, they naturally conservative. That's how they rock. And they loyal. So I'm not mad at the Cubans, especially the Cubans that are in the United States, because, you know, they got, you know, a lot of them mad. A lot of them are mad from, you know, with Castro and the U.S. not helping when Castro, you know, came to power. Castro came to power, and I was just talking to one of my colleagues this morning. I'm trying to, you know, have him come on the show on Friday to discuss the Latino and Latin vote. You know, and so we was just talking about it, and he was just saying, like, you know, his family was one of the largest landowners in Cuba, and he was just saying they just took all they stuff. Like Castro and them took like all they bread, all they stuff, took it, and they basically came to the United States with not a lot after having a lot. And then they, you know, they break it down and talk about the Bay of Pigs with Kennedy. John F. Kennedy, President John F. Kennedy, who was a Democrat, they say let him down. They say he let the Cubans down, saying they was ready to, you know, mount this attack. Yeah, they was ready to mount this attack and go back over and, you know, and take their country back, and say, you know, Kennedy, you know, punked out. Basically, they saying Kennedy punked out. So you got a lot of them mad about that. And then, you know, you talking in the 80s, you know, the Scarface. What is Scarface, one of black people in particular favorite movies? What's the premise behind Scarface? The premise behind Scarface is that Fidel Castro let everybody out of the jails and the prisons in Cuba and was like, leave the country, get out. It's called a Mario boat lift. And all these folks came to Cuba. And when they came to Cuba, and you talking about the 80s, who was the president in the 80s? Ronald Reagan. So a Republican. So when you have Ronald Reagan, a Republican, who, you know, gave them favorable treatment, meaning you got checks, you got public assistance, you got social services, you got things, land, you got the opportunity to come and start a whole fresh life. They are loyal. They haven't forgotten that. So you can understand, you know, why, you know, what's going on.
Also, you know, Spanish people consider themselves, they mark white. You see what I'm saying? So that's a whole nother situation right there with him, white supremacist, white that. That's how they feel. You know, a lot of white Cubans don't like black Cubans because that's who Castro protected. You see what I'm saying? So they're going to stand behind Trump because he's standing behind white. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but which is not the prevailing sentiment around the country. You know, Boricua is something that is more embraced outside of South Florida. So when you're talking about in Florida, you're talking about 3.1 million Latinos, including an influx, an injection of Puerto Ricans who definitely not feeling Trump after Hurricane Maria.
At all.
And this man out there throwing out toilet paper.
And paper
when
towels.
them folks out there, you know,
When
them
they
folks out
hurting.
there starving, you know, out there. And on top of that, hopefully we can get my brother in here on Friday, because he was saying that his folks left Cuba and went to Puerto Rico and, started off back in Puerto Rico. And, you got some big landowners in Puerto Rico who not feeling the same way as the masses of people. So then the other thing you was saying is that since the elimination of the wet foot, dry foot policy, where if you make it over here in Cuba, he said what they're doing now is many of the Cubans are going to Russia. They're getting citizenship in Russia and then coming to the United States. So if you're going by way of Russia and you coming here and Russia is down with Trump, you know what I mean? That's letting you know and letting you understand more that is way more complex than we like to, than we like to deal with. We like to deal with simple, keep it simple, stupid. We don't like to get into the complexities of these particular issues. And the other thing is understanding when they hear things like socialism, socialism is way different when you're talking about socialized medicine in England or Sweden,
but they
or
try to
Canada
bunch it in one.
and what have you.
It's two different things.
When they talk, but that's what I'm saying. We talking specifically about the Latino community. When they hear socialism, they thinking Castro and they thinking Hugo Chavez. So when they're saying that, hey, these folks are trying to, push this socialist agenda, those are dog whistles. So people hear, like, why is Trump saying that? He's giving his greatest hits because he's talking to who he talking to. He's not talking to you. He's not talking to you. And so you got to sit there and you got to be able to interpret who this man talking to, because he's not stupid by a long shot. So when this folks come in there and be like, hey, man, you didn't discredit or you didn't disavow David Duke of the Ku Klux Klan when he said, he was like, I don't know him. Right. So you don't know David Duke. Then they try to turn around and say, well, Joe Biden, spoke at the funeral of, the grand cyclops of the Ku Klux Klan, who was Robert Byrd. Robert Byrd was a senator from West Virginia. We had a member of the Supreme Court that was a former Ku Klux Klan member out of Alabama, Justice Black. And Justice Black ended up being one of the best justices on the Supreme Court for black people. Justice Black, when you talk about his memoirs and saying why did he do it and what was going on, Justice Black basically told you what time it was. He was like, hey, coming up during that particular time in the South, if you was going to be an elected official, you was going to be a sheriff, you was going to be in public office, if you wasn't a part of the White Citizens Council or you wasn't a part of the Ku Klux Klan or one of those organizations that protect the Southern way of life, as they said, you was not going to get office. But he'll come around and be like, oh, well, I didn't burn no cross on nobody's property, or I didn't go out and lynch somebody or whatever. Yeah, but you know who did.
You know who did it. They called
you.
you.
But you know who did, and I'm sure you probably protected a few.
You ain't snitch.
I'm sure you probably defended a few, and I'm sure you know what I'm saying? That's just the reality of this country, the reality of this nation. It's the same thing where, one day if a black person rises in prominence or is being considered for a position or something, and they come in there and say, well, isn't it true that you was a member of the Nation of Islam? You come in there saying you was a member of the Nation of Islam, automatically you're going to be labeled anti-Semitic. Automatically. And they're going to come in there and say, well, didn't Minister Louis Farrakhan call, Judaism a dirty religion? Didn't he compare them to rodents and all these other particular things or what have you? You're going to have to go in. That's just what people do in politics.
Right.
So to go in there and say, well, Joe Biden, didn't you do that? Didn't you receive an award from George Wallace, who was the racist segregationist, the one that said segregation today, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever? The one who ran the governor of Alabama. Governor of Alabama, who ended up in an assassination attempt, being paralyzed, getting shot, being paralyzed, and then he changed his views. Later on, he ended up changing his views, but you got folks that still today, like this morning, the spokesman for Trump is running out there and talking about, well, why wouldn't Trump, disavow the Proud Boys or white supremacists or what have you? Turn around and said, well, the whataboutism. Well, Joe Biden, spoke at
But that doesn't have
this funeral, which this man been dead over 20 years.
Yeah, but that wasn't.
George Wallace been dead over 30 years. Like, we talking about right now today, and this man got an African American as his running mate, bruh. We go and look at the cabinet of our sitting president, and the cabinet got one black man that's out of position. It's like you got Spud Webb. It's like you got Spud Webb at center.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? With Dr. Ben Carson. You got a neurosurgeon over HUD, bruh. Over HUD. Housing and Urban Development. A neurosurgeon. This man should be over HHS, Health and Human Services, or something like that. But he let you know what he felt about him during the debates when Dr. Carson was running for president, when he had the lead briefly. Dr. Carson was in the lead briefly, in the 2016 primaries. The man sat there and called this neurosurgeon, world-renowned neurosurgeon, an okay doctor. And you see how he followed up on that. Put this man out of position. Put this man as housing and urban development, bro. This doctor, man. And we're in the middle of a pandemic. How many times has Dr. Ben Carson showed up at a briefing on the pandemic?
None.
He
got
busy doing housing.
Yeah, I seen him at the round tables.
He in the cabinet, so at least he get to make the cabinet meetings and to come around and doing whatever. And he's trying to do something with the opportunity zones. We spoke about that with opportunity zones, but it just lets you know, bro. When you look,
but he's been there 4 years and hasn't done
nobody's
anything
even
for
looking
HUD.
at. Nobody's even looking at the visuals, the optics about what our children see.
Yeah.
What do our children see when they turn on the television? We live in such a diverse country.
We do.
This is 2020. Everything else, all the commercials on TV are integrated. They showing like biracial couples and mixed kids, same sex
LGBT, all that.
couples and all this stuff. What's going on? This is what our kids are seeing every day, experiencing every day. But when they look at the person that's running the government, that's running the country, and they come in there and you just see a room full of white men. So what does that tell you? What does that tell our children? Like, what does that tell our children about the people who are making all these decisions? These people are in position because they fear what's coming. They fear what's happening. They feel like, you see all this stuff that's going on, you can't escape it. You can't escape it. What are we going to do to preserve our legacy? What are we going to do to make sure we are fortified? What are we going to do to make sure that these folks don't run a modern day Nat Turner around this thing? What are we going to do?
See, the problem is a lot of people eyes are closed. They're just so used to letting government. I think we had a conversation. Nobody wants to be in charge. We were saying and everybody wants a messiah.
It's called colonization. It's a psychological effect that happens where they put all these images of these things that are supposed to be over you, from a white Jesus to white presidents, the founding fathers. Everything is white. You know what I'm saying? And we are slaves. We're beneath humans. You know what I mean? And this is the propaganda that people come in. People not thinking about nation building. People not thinking about autonomy. Freedom is different from autonomy. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at what happened, what was given to the colonists of America, this is what we need as a people. We need the same thing. We need autonomy in the United States.
I agree with you 100%. We got to get together.
That's the only way it's going to change.
For real, we have to
just,
get together.
You know, it's just one of those things, man, where your world vision has to match up with that of your leadership.
Yeah.
It's time for that. You know, as we can see right now, there was a time we were mourning the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg always been the best, bruh. She always been the best. Finishing first in her class or tied for first in her class at some of the best institutions, Columbia, Harvard, some of the best institutions, sacrificing, you know, for a husband who she loved dearly, but got her pregnant early on. So she's in law school with a baby. Oh, wow. Still finishing the top. Like, this lady was bad. And guess who her hero was?
Who was that?
Her hero was Thurgood Marshall. You know what I'm saying? Like, telling that story, that she looked at what Thurgood Marshall did, being the first African American appointed to the Supreme Court in 1967, who was denied admission to University of Maryland, who ended up going to Howard University under Mordecai Johnson, Charles Hamilton Houston, Mordecai Johnson, finishing first in his class, heading the Legal Defense Fund of the NAACP. And as you can see with our brother Chadwick Boseman, who portrayed him in the movie Marshall, was going around state by state trying cases for black people in way worse conditions that we dealing with right now. Way worse conditions. And to have a Jewish woman out of Brooklyn sit there and say, this is my hero. That's what should make America great. That's what should make America great. When a Jewish woman out of Brooklyn can say, my hero in the law was this brother out of Maryland who went to a HBCU. That's who I pattern myself after. Right. And the rights that were obtained by her largely on her behest, which is like, for instance, getting equal and fair pay for officers in female officers in the Air Force. That was the case that she did, where this lady was going around doing all this other stuff, and she was married, and she found out that all the other officers who was doing the same work as she was doing, who was married, was getting additional pay for their households to come in there. And so she found out about that, and she went in there to her superior commanding officer, and she's like, sir, why am I not getting this pay for my household? For why am I not getting this or whatever? And the superior officer looked at her like, man, you lucky. Ma'am, you lucky that you even here. You lucky that you even in this situation. Like, you don't have the same obligations that a man has. You don't have this stuff right here. So that was one of the first cases that she used, and she modeled the way she filed her briefs and the cause of action after Thurgood Marshall. That's something that needs to be taught in the schools. And when you look at,
I didn't know that.
And when you look at the debate last night, and when they talked about racial sensitivity training, and the president was like, it's counter programming and it's some radical stuff or whatever. How is teaching racial sensitivity about things that I just told you that none of us learned in school is radical? Because you don't want the people who are seemingly at the top to know that all these people that you look down on have contributed throughout before this nation was even a nation. We have folks contributing, as Teddy T will tell you quickly. The folks who got Christopher Columbus here were Africans, or Moors, as Teddy T would like to indicate. The folks that were the navigators got them here. The Native Americans that we celebrate Thanksgiving for, Teddy T would say, were Africans, the African people who taught them how to survive. And to have all that flipped on them, land stolen, taken, And we not running around here burning this place up all the time. Like,
They
all
lucky.
day burning it up. Right. So instead of embracing that, somebody said we've lost over $16 trillion. Is that what you said, Teddy? Over $16 trillion due to racism. 16 trillion with a T. $16 trillion lost because of racism. Because not wanting to, you feel like, it's worse than a crab in a bucket mentality. It's worse than that. It's like you feel like you can't celebrate somebody else because you feel like that'll take away from you, from your accomplishments.
People feel that way.
You know what I'm saying? It's gonna take away from your accomplishment. You ask a artist about another artist, they don't want to say nothing. They don't want to come in there and say, "Man, bro, I watched you, and I got some, I saw what you was doing." Like I tell you, when people say, some, I don't let it go to my head, but I remember and I acknowledge it when people say stuff to me, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Folks think they giving you a compliment. They come in there and say, Reg, I'm gonna tell you something, man. You're the best trial lawyer I've ever seen, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because the difference between you and Willie Gary, and I've had cases against Willie Gary, is that Willie Gary doesn't know the law. He just comes in, man, and he just comes in and bullies his way around, and he's gonna threaten pickets and riots and all kind of stuff. And my client, they don't want to be through all that stuff.
That's a sideways compliment.
They don't. He doesn't know the law. He doesn't know the law. But you know the law. But you know how to come in there and do that church stuff.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know how to come in there, you know how to get down, you know how to boogie, you know how to get there and connect with the people, whatever. And I take it and I'm like, all right, cool. I feel I get it.
I get you.
Because that's what, if you remember, that's what Joe Biden said about Barack Obama in 2008. He thought he was paying the man a compliment when he said he was clean and articulate. He thought he was paying him a compliment. Juxtaposing or comparing him to Jesse Jackson, because Jesse Jackson talks like a Southerner. He talks like a Southern black guy. He talked like Magic Johnson. Where that strong ethnic is still in him. He hadn't gone, and got a speech therapist or what have you to not speak that way anymore.
I mean, because Obama is just like Newkirk. He hadn't experienced the Negro experience. He grew up in Indonesia and went straight to Harvard. He never got to experience.
No, he went to Columbia before Howard, and he went to
college.
He went to
he wasn't running around in the hood.
Another school beginning
Like
with I can't think of it in California, but I feel you. But he's definitely he did not experience the true Negro experience that everybody else was experiencing prior to adulthood.
Right.
Prior to adulthood. And it's different. I had a cousin.
Don't go there,
I have a-
Ted.
I got a-
I have.
I got a cousin.
I have had.
No, bro, I got a
Listen,
cousin.
if you
I
get
got
your-
a cousin. I got a cousin that's similar. I got a cousin that was probably the first version of Barack Obama that I saw growing up, right? My cousin. First time they came and visited us, we was living in Mississippi. They came and visited us, we was living in Mississippi at the time. Speed Racer, and it was like, he coming and watching TV. We were like, Speed Racer. Like, that's why I remembered him. So then we moved to Pompano, and, he and his mother moved they were living in San Francisco. And his mother, was the first, and she never said I'm a lesbian. She never said I'm gay. She never, came out and said it. It was just that she would be on our back porch, and then she would have this visitor, this white girl, this white lady, would fly in, from California sometimes. And they'd be out on the back porch, and she'd be playing an acoustic guitar, right? I didn't know. I was young. I was probably like 9, 10 years old.
You didn't understand the court.
But as her son got older, and when we moved at this time, we were staying at that time, it was a predominantly white neighborhood called Kendall Green, and now it's not, but then it was. Mm-hmm. So I was still cool with my friends back in Liberty Park in Pompanoes. I was still cool with all my friends was in Liberty Park to the point where I would walk. I would get up early in the morning and walk back to Liberty Park so I could ride the bus to school until they kicked me off, until they just said I couldn't do that anymore. Right. But I would get up early and walk back to Liberty Park just to ride the bus with my friends back to school. And all my friends was going to the boys club after school. So that's what I would do. Makes sense. I wasn't hanging out in the neighborhood too much. You know, after school, I'd go to the club and be with my friends until night, come home, go to sleep. But when they moved in with us for a while, he did not want to go to the boys club. He went to the boys club with me a couple times, but he didn't want to go to the boys club. He wanted to hang out in the neighborhood. And I'd be like, you know, my parents would be like, man, you ought to go with Reggie to the boys club. And he was like, no, I don't want to go. I want to hang out with Carmine. Carmine them stayed at the corner, and his dad would work on this 57 Chevy like every day, and they'd just be there working on cars. You know, he was like, oh, we hang out with Carmine. We don't be with Carmine. I go to the club, I come back, or whatever, and it was just like, yeah, it's gonna be fine until one day Carmine go call you the N-word, and you know it happened one day. But I said all that to say, his experience in San Francisco, they way more advanced and progressive than we were. Like he was, you know, we talking about the late 70s, early 80s that, you know, he's already experiencing, you know, a lesbian relationship with his mother and somebody else, you know, and now you done moved to the South. Now you done moved to the South, and he wasn't accustomed to being around black people that was black people. Like we was black people. Like he was just like, he hated it here. He hated it here. He hated it here. So imagine Hawaii, bruh. Imagine Indonesia, where Barack Obama, you know, those were his experiences. It helped him tremendously because he may not have been president without that worldview, without having other folks to just be 1,000 with you and to have, because you can't win any election with just black votes. You cannot. It's going to take alliances, coalitions, and other people. And the fact that he had lived in these different places and, you know, objectively, the number one top student at Harvard Law School, the number one law school in the world, like, what you gonna say to that? Like, what you gonna question that? Now the issue is, for black people, Michelle Obama was indispensable because she a straight sister from the South Side of Chicago. Yeah, and so she came and bought and threw her credibility onto him, and draped him. And to see him embrace a sister made more people way more comfortable with him. Way more comfortable with him. Which is why folks wasn't
white girl, it'd been a whole different story.
Which is why folks weren't that comfortable with Kamala Harris when she ran, for president. And like folks wasn't rallying behind Kamala Harris. It wasn't rallying behind her at all. Because she married to a white dude, right? And not saying, dude, it seems like a great guy, who loves her, and they just filed a tax return, they clocking $3 million. You know what I mean?
They doing good.
Paying $1 million in taxes. So I know she would have liked to pay that $750.
$750.
That the president paid. $750 that he paid 2 years in a row, 2015 and 2016, $750, and 10 of the previous 15 years, paid nothing. I'm sure she would have liked to have done that. That's why he didn't want to release
those tax returns.
Right. But, let's see whether or not she's going to be successful in fortifying the Jewish vote, because her husband is Jewish. So let's see whether or not she's able to help out, with the Jewish, what I'm saying? So it's these alliances. So you got to understand, whatever you bring it to the table, It's gonna be a minute. We talk about it. We keep it 1,000 on this show.
But get it there. Like he's just saying, even though he's saying it wrong. But my cousin, for example, he grew up in the suburbs, right? He had more of an opportunity. He had different people that he had opportunity to meet and stuff like that. But when he got older, he came to the hood where we lived at. At that time, I'd rather be in the suburbs. I ain't have to, no noise, no gunshots, none of that. So his opportunities took him to Howard. You know what I'm saying? He was able to go ahead and go to Howard. He went to military school, too, in South Bend. You know what I'm saying? He was the only brother on a hockey team, too. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's the different things that he was able to go ahead and do.
And that's the next plateau. You know what a ghetto has a negative connotation, but the true meaning of ghetto is not negative. It is people of the same ethnicity, nationality, being in one place, so that they can support each other and support their communities, the various communities being in one place. So you got to understand that the ghetto is as American as American pie. The issue is remaining in those ghettos. Ghetto is not a place for people to be
stay
forever. Places is for you to come, get established, get the resources that you need, and then go on and know, you got protection back in the ghetto to come in and, these institutions and frameworks that's set up is back here, that you got a home base. That's why you have a Little China. That's why you have a Chinatown. That's why you have a Little Havana, a Little Haiti. That's why you have these places that there's a cultural connection that you can go back to and get that. But you're not supposed to stay there.
No.
Not in the U.S. No. Not in the U.S. It's a place. It's
but
should
give
be
back
transient.
Give back to. Like artists should be giving back to the, you know what I'm saying?
This should
to
be the place where people, when they first come in, this where they go. That's why I'm never mad at the Cuban community. I'm never mad at the Korean community or the immigrant communities in general. But that's the thing. You got to understand that it is the same thing for all immigrant communities. Because immigrants come here voluntarily.
And then they
come here voluntarily. And when you decide to go somewhere else, when you decide to go somewhere else, what's the saying? When in Rome, do as the Romans. You don't go there to rock somebody else's boat.
Nope.
When they're allowing you to come in their place. If I go to Ghana right now and I decide to go and live in Ghana, I can't be running in there telling new people how they run their government, how they need to run their stuff. I need to figure out how they run their stuff. So that's another reason why you have, in my opinion, like the Hispanics who are siding with Trump. Because if you come to this nation, you know the things about the nation that you researched and the government that you researched, or you should have researched before you got here. So when you get here, you like, hey man, this the guy that let me in. Who knows what's gonna happen if somebody get out of power, especially when you're looking at Venezuela as an example. Venezuela, where the people don't leave, or you look at what's going on.
Look at what's going on here. Just here itself. He's the people that was able to become citizens from their parents and being born here. Their parents not being U.S. citizens. I'm sorry, what's the kid? What they call it again? They start with a D, right? The kids, they're called
the dreamers.
The dreamers.
Right.
And that's
the anchor babies.
That should be fair.
Trump call them the anchor babies.
That should be fair.
People who come over here. People who it's baby tourism. People that come over here just to have their kids, so their kids get national. But
it happens.
But the law is the law. That's what understand. Folks want that American citizenship.
But if you live here and you have like a residence and this, that, and the other, but if you're just coming here just to have a baby, hey. I mean, but we're the land of the free. We give people the opportunity to do that. That's what the law said.
Well, the guy that we have in the White House right now doesn't think that should be the law, and he's like, a lot of people don't think it should be either. Well, the Constitution says otherwise.
Right.
But, that's
amend the Constitution.
That's what it is, man. So we made it through another rendition of Hump Day. Before we get up out of here, man, we definitely got to give a shout out to the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
That's start that championship run against the Los Angeles Lakers today. Are we going to get revenge on LeBron James, or is LeBron James just going to add another one to his mantle?
We might have to get that. We might have to go ahead and get that revenge, man. I'm gonna go ahead and root for the daggone Heat, man. I think we could take it. We can take it, man.
I think it's going to hinge upon Adebayo. Adebayo has not played well against Anthony Davis. He has not played well against Anthony Davis. I think we got a decent matchup with Butler and what's my man Crowder. With Butler and Crowder, I think, especially if they play zone, Butler, Crowder, and Iguodala, between the three of them, I think they can neutralize LeBron. And I think if you can have those three players focusing on LeBron, Adebayo, but I'm really, really concerned with Adebayo and Anthony Davis, man. Anthony Davis is the X factor. As Anthony Davis goes, so goes this series. I think LeBron gonna do what he does, but I'm not afraid of LeBron.
You're not supposed
LeBron's
to be afraid of
great,
LeBron.
No, I'm just saying, Kevin Durant, I'm afraid of.
Okay.
Because Kevin Durant is such a shooter. With Kevin Durant, you got to keep him from shooting, bro. Because I don't care if he take off from half court, it's a chance it's going in.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron shooting outside, it doesn't scare me. It's when LeBron just put his head down and just go. And I think the Heat and their zone, I think they can be all right, especially if you have Iguodala, Crowder, and Butler focused on LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have anything for Davis. Adebayo, if Adebayo have one of those games where he pent old boy shot, if he get, as my sister Ski-Fi Aisha Goddess said, vote and do business with each other. Amen. Certainly concur with that. Shout out to my mighty Tigers out there tuning in. I see you, Marcus Glover. See you, Angie Money.